Hello everybody, this is Refresh, and I'm here to bring you a battle between these two Guilds of Ravnica Planeswalker decks and the Battle of the Horde challenge deck from Born of the Gods. On the left we have Vraska's deck, and on the right we have Ral's deck. We will be playing two games, first on normal difficulty with 3 turns before the Horde attacks, and then on hard mode with 2 turns before the Horde attacks. We'll be using 3 hero cards for this effort. We have the Harvester, which will let us tap to draw a card, then discard a card. The Explorer, which says you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and the Vanquisher, which says your starting hand size is increased by 1, your maximum hand size is increased by 1. Because I only have 1 copy of each of these cards, they'll be applied to both decks simultaneously. We'll start with 8 cards apiece. Vraska draws a Forest, Wild Ceratok, Bartizan Bats, Bounty of Might, Swamp, Attendant Vraska, Forest, and Glowspore Shaman. I think this is an okay hand to keep. Ral draws an Omnispell Adept, Precision Bolt, 5 Mountains, and a Precision Bolt. This is not a very good hand, so we're going to go ahead and ship this back and then draw another 8. Ral's second hand is an Island, Ral Staticaster, Izzet Guildgate, Command Storm, Fearless Halberdier, Island, Mountain, and Precision Bolt. I think this is a much better hand, so we'll go ahead and keep this. Turn 1, we will play a Swamp and a Forest. We'll tap them both and play a Glowspore Shaman. When it enters a battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. You may put a land card from your graveyard on top of your library. We'll reveal 3 cards. We have a Golgari Guildgate, a Swarm Guildmage, and a Beast Whisperer. We do eventually want that 4th land, so we'll actually put the Guildgate back on top. Ral will play a Izzet Guildgate tapped and an Island, and then we're going to end the turn. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester to draw and discard. We will draw the Golgari Guildgate, we'll draw an Island, and then we will discard the Precision Bolt, and we will discard the Bounty of Might, and then we'll untap. We'll go into our second turn by drawing. Vraska draws a Swamp, Ral draws a Omnispell Adept. We will play a Mountain over here, we'll play a Island over here, we'll play a Swamp and a Forest over here. And then we'll attack the Horde with the Glowspore Shaman, since it's no good for defending. And we'll take 3 from the library and put them in the graveyard. We have Mogus Chosen, Minotaur, Younghorn, and a Reckless Minotaur. These will perish. And then we will go to our second main phase. For that, we will tap 4 over here and play Ral's Staticaster, which is a 3/3 trample whenever Ral Staticaster attacks. If you control a Ral Planeswalker, Ral Staticaster gets +1/+0 for each card in your hand until end of turn. We don't have that right now. And then over here we will tap all 4 and we will play a Bartizan Bats. And then at the end of the turn we will use the Harvester. We'll draw a card and discard. Vraska draws a Forest and we'll go ahead and discard the Guildgate. Ral will draw a Maximized Altitude and we will discard the Maximized Altitude. And then we'll untap. We'll draw a card. Vraska draws an Attendant of Vraska. Ral draws a Ral's Dispersal. We'll play the Island. We'll play the Forest. And then we'll attack with the whole team for a total of 9 damage. Alright, in order, we have a Massacre Totem. When Massacre Totem is put into a graveyard from anywhere, put the top 7 cards of the Horde's library into its graveyard, so we'll do that. Then we have Vitality Salve. When Vitality Salve is put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player returns a creature card from his or her graveyard to the battlefield. I think the Beast Whisperer is the best card to return over here, so we'll do so, and Ral has no creatures. Then we have a Plundered Statue. When Plundered Statue is put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player draws a card. Vraska will draw an Iron Shell Beetle, and Ral will draw a Mountain. We have another Plundered Statue. So Vraska will draw a Forest, and Ral will draw an Erratic Cyclops. We'll play the Mountain as our second land for the turn. We'll play the Forest as our second land for the turn. Ral will tap out, except for the Guildgate, to cast the Omnispell Adept. Vraska will tap 6 mana to cast both of the Attendants of Vraska. And then we'll go to the Horde's turn. The Horde will cast the top 3 spells. The first one being a Consuming Rage. When a Minotaur attacks this turn, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Destroy that creature at the end of combat. one Reckless Minotaur, which is a 4/1 and it will be destroyed at the end of combat, and a Minotaur Goreseeker. These will be attacking as a 6/1 and as a 5/2, and they will all be destroyed at the end of combat, so we'll actually take both because there's no need to waste any creatures, and we'll discard them both, taking 11 damage to go down to 9. Also, we should have drawn 2 cards off the Attendants of Vraska, so we'll go ahead and do that now. We have another Iron Shield Beetle and a Swamp. And then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Vraska draws a Crawl Raider, and Ral draws a Leapfrog. We will discard the Erratic Cyclops, and we will discard an Iron Shell Beetle. Then we'll untap, and then we'll draw. Vraska draws a Spinal Centipede, and Ral draws a Hellkite Whelp. We'll go ahead and attack with the Partisan Bats, the Glow Spore Shaman, both Attendants of Vraska, the Staticaster for 15 damage. There's a single Altar of Mogus here. It says, when Altar of Mogus is put into a graveyard from anywhere, the Horde sacrifices 2 Minotaurs. It has no Minotaurs to sacrifice, so nothing will happen. And then we'll go ahead and cast some more spells. We'll play the Swamp over here, and we will cast the Crawl Raiders, which will draw us a card. And we'll play the second Swamp, and the Wild Ceratok, which will draw us a card. And over here, we'll tap out, cast the Leapfrog and the Halberdier, and then we'll pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde is going to cast the top 3 spells. The first one is a Minotaur Younghorn as a 2/2, the Mogus Chosen, which comes into the battlefield tapped, and the Minotaur Younghorn. These two will attack and will be blocked by the Crawl Raider and the Beast Whisperer to be defeated. At the end of the Horde's turn, we'll use the Harvester. Vraska draws a forest and will discard a forest. Ral draws a island and will discard the Command Storm. And then we'll untap. We'll draw. Vraska draws a swamp. Ral draws an Izzet Guildgate. We'll play the island and the Izzet Guildgate tapped. We'll play the forest and the swamp. We'll swing with everybody for 32 damage. There are 2 refreshing elixirs in here. Each one says, when refreshing elixir is put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player gains 5 life. That is 2 players, so 10 life per refreshing elixir, so 20 life, taking us up to 29. And then we will end by spending 5 mana from Ral to play Ral's Dispersal, return target creature to its owner's hand, which will cause this to enter the Minotaur's graveyard, and the Guilds of Ravnica Planeswalker decks will defeat the Horde. We'll be right back with Hard Mode. Now for Hard Mode, we'll start with 8 cards apiece. Vraska has a Vraska Stoneglare, Forest, Crawl Raiders, Vraska Real Gorgon, Lotlith Giant, Defkaran Dissident, Bounty of Might, and Rhizome Lurcher. There is only 1 land, so we really can't keep this hand. We'll ship it back and then go for another 8. Now we have a Crowl Foragers, Golgari Guildgate, Forest, Swamp, Vraska Stoneglare, Partisan Bats, Rhizome Lurcher, and Golgari Guildgate. This is not an ideal hand because it's a bit on the slow side, but hopefully we'll be able to draw it into something better. Ral has a Mountain, Goblin Electromancer, Island, Mountain, Island, Wee Dragonauts, Muse Drake, and Fearless Halberdier. There are a good amount of permanents here and lands, so we're going to keep this as well. Turn 1. We're going to draw because this is multiplayer. Vraska draws a Prey Upon, and Ral will draw a Mountain. We will play both of the Golgari Guildgates over here tapped, and we'll play a Mountain and an Island over here. Tap both, and we'll play the Goblin Electromancer. And then we will, at the end of the turn, use the Harvester. Vraska will draw a Spinal Centipede and will discard the Prey Upon. Ral will draw a Mountain and will discard a Mountain. And then we'll untap. We'll draw. Vraska draws a Golgari Guildgate, and Ral will draw a Precision Bolt. We'll play a Mountain and an Island over here, and we will play the Swamp and the Forest over here, and then we will attack with the Goblin Electromancer for 2. Plunder statue will cause us to draw a card each. Vraska will draw a Ral Raider, and Ral will draw another Goblin Electromancer. We'll cast a Muse Drake over here. When it enters the battlefield, we'll draw a card. Ral draws a mountain, and we will tap everything here to cast the Bartizan Bats. And then we will pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde is going to cast the top 3 spells. The first one being a Vitality Salve. At the beginning of the Horde's pre-combat main phase, reveal an additional card from the top of the Horde's library. The Horde casts that card. So we'll be dealing with 4 cards starting next turn. We also have a Phobos Reaver, which is a 2/3, and a Phobos Reaver, which is a 2/3. They both have haste, and they'll both be on the attack. We will block one of them with the Muse Drake and only take 2, going down to 18. And then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Vraska will draw a Forest and will discard the Ral Raider. Ral will draw a Rubble Belt Boar and will discard the Precision Bolt. Then we'll untap. We'll draw. Vraska will draw a Forest. Ral will draw an island. We'll play a mountain and an island over here. We'll play 2 forests over here. We'll cast the Rubble Belt Boar and the Goblin Electromancer over here. The Rubble Belt Boar says that when it enters the battlefield, target creature gains +2/+0 until end of turn. We'll give that to the Muse Drake, and then we'll attack with the Muse Drake, the Goblin Electromancer, and the Bartizan Bats for a total of 8 damage. And then we'll follow up on this side by spending 5 mana and casting Ral Foragers. It's a 4/4, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. There's only 1, so we'll gain 1 life to go up to 19. Then we'll go to the Horde's turn. The Horde will untap and cast the top 4 cards. The first one being a Phobos Reaver, the second one being a Phobos Reaver, the third one being a Refreshing Elixir, meaning that they'll cast 5 cards at the beginning of the next turn. And the last one being a Touch of the Horned God. When a Minotaur attacks this turn, it gains Death Touch until end of turn. So we are being attacked by 4 death-touching Phobos Reavers. I don't know how I feel about trading for a death-touching Phobos Reaver. So do we just take 8 damage? I guess so. We'll take 8 damage and go down to 11. And then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Vraska will draw a Spinal Centipede, and Ral will draw a Ral's Staticaster. We will discard the Wee Dragonauts, and we will discard the Golgari Guildgate, and then we'll untap. We'll draw. Vraska draws an Attendant of Vraska, and Ral draws an Izzet Guildgate. We'll play the Izzet Guildgate and the Mountain, and then we will attack with the Bartizan Bats, both of the Goblin Electromancers, and the Rubble Belt Boar for 10 damage. There is a single Massacre Totem, and that'll cause the Horde to lose 7 more cards. We'll go ahead and cast the Ral Staticaster and the Fearless Halberdier over here. And then over here, we'll cast both of the Spinal Centipedes. And then we'll pass the turn to the Horde, which will untap, and then cast the top 5 cards. We have a Minotaur Goreseeker, a Phobos Reaver, a Minotaur Younghorn, a Intervention of Karanos. It says at the beginning of combat this turn, Intervention of Karanos deals 3 damage to each creature, and a Minotaur Younghorn. It's the beginning of combat, and what's going to happen first is this is going to deal 3 damage to each creature, destroying every single creature except for the Ral Foragers. When the Spinal Centipedes die, each one will put a +1/+1 counter on the target creature you control, so that'll make the Ral Foragers a 6/6. And then at the end of the turn, we're not going to use the Harvester because Ral doesn't have anything to discard, so then we'll untap. We'll draw. Vraska draws a Golgari Guildgate, and Ral draws a Maximized Altitude. Ral is stuck without anything to do. Vraska will play the Golgari Guildgate tapped, and then Vraska will spend 4 mana to cast the Rizal Mercher, which enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for each creature in the graveyard. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'll enter the battlefield as a 6/6. Though we're a little vulnerable, I think we have to attack. So we'll attack with the Ral Foragers for 6 damage. There we go. And then we'll pass the turn to the Horde. the Horde is going to cast the top 5 cards. We have a Altar of Mogus, a Phobos Reaver, a Minotaur Goreseeker, a Unquenchable Fury. Each Minotaur can't be blocked this turn except by 2 or more creatures, and a Unquenchable Fury. It's the same thing. These 2 are going to attack, and I cannot block them, and so we're going to be taking 5 damage to go down to 6. A Precarious State. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Vraska will draw a Lotleth Giant, and will discard the Vraska Stoneglare, and Ral will draw a Passwall Adept and discard the Maximize Altitude. We'll untap. We'll draw. Vraska draws a Forest. Ral draws a Vedalken Mesmerist. Vraska will play her Forest, and then we'll tap 7 mana to play the Lotleth Giant. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard. We have 4 creatures in our graveyard, so the Horde will take 4 damage. And then lose all of these. We'll draw a card off the Plundered Statue. Vraska draws a Swamp. Ral will draw an Island. Play the Island, we'll play the Swamp. We will attack with the Kraul Forgers for another 6 damage. Finishing off the Horde, there's Refreshing Elixir over here, which means that we'll gain 5 life each for 10 life to take us up to 16. And then Ral will cast the Mesmerist and the Passwall Adept. And then we'll pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde will untap. It has no more spells to cast in the library, so it's going to attack with its 2 creatures who will run into the Rhizome Lurcher and the Lotleth Giant and perish, giving the win to the Guilds of Ravnica Planeswalker decks. Again, I felt like Ral was a bit weaker against these challenge decks because permanents matter more than spells. And this second battle was a bit on the tougher side, especially after that intervention of Kuranos wiped everything out. But we managed to recover and win. Let me know what your thoughts about these battles were in the comments below. If I made any play or rules errors, also let me know so that I can do better in the future. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more such videos, hit subscribe. Next time, I'll be back with a battle between these 2 Planeswalker decks and the Defeated God Challenge deck from Journey into Nyx. Until then, this was Refresh, and thank you for watching.